First seller I've brought up, you can see they have a feedback score of 10, but they only have a 75% positive feedback. This is a good example of an account that's been hijacked. This person received an email that appeared to be from eBay, but it was actually from a scammer. They clicked on a link in that email and gave away their password and their login to the scammer. The scammer then logged into their account, posted several fake auctions, collected the money, and then disappeared. This person now has a number of bad feedback reports because of the scammer. The people who purchased from this account did not know it was hijacked, so they left feedback for the account, indicating that the transaction they made was bad. As we scroll down, we can see that most of the feedback is negative or neutral. One person gave a neutral, no delivery, finally got money back 2 months later with PayPal's assistance. Buyers beware, he'll take your money and skip out. Having a large number of recent negative feedbacks is usually an indication of a hijacked account. As we scroll down, we see that this person had a lot of good feedback before that. This is why it's important to look at a seller's feedback before making a purchase. If they have a number of recent negatives, it may indicate that their account has been hijacked. You can do some additional checking by comparing items they're currently selling with items they've sold in the past to see if they're different. There's a lot more information about this in the Don't Bid on It book and also in the Scams and Scoundrels book. Here's an example of someone who's simply a dishonest member. You can see they have a 3 rating. To obtain this 3 rating, they had 10 positives and 7 negatives. That's a 58.8% average, which is not good at all. As we scroll down, we can see the comments left for this person. If we look at their buyer comments by clicking on feedback as a buyer, we can see that he has a history of being a deadbeat bidder. You can see that this person is no longer a registered user. Based on their feedback and the number of non-payment complaints, this is most likely because a number of people filed complaints for non-payment. If we click on the tab, Feedback Left for Others, we can see what feedback this user has left for other members. As we scroll down, we see this person has left a lot of negative feedback. They've actually left more negative feedback than positive feedback. This is always an indication of a dishonest person. The average eBay member should rarely have to give negative feedback, but this person gives it more than half the time. This is a clear warning sign whether this person's a buyer or a seller. I would not do business with this person, and it's a good thing their account's been disabled so other members do not have to deal with them. Here's the feedback profile of a power seller member who makes a large number of sales. As we scroll down and look at their feedback rating, I can see over 200,000 people have left feedback for this member. In the past month, they've received over 6,000 positives, 134 neutrals, and 106 negatives. This gives them a 98% positive feedback rating, which is okay. It's not uncommon for extremely high volume sellers to have a larger number of negatives or neutrals. It can be difficult for them to take care of every customer, and shipping mistakes are more likely. As I scroll down and look at their feedback, I see a lot of positives. They have a lot of happy customers. If I look at the comments on the neutral or negatives, disc was used, scratched. That comment does not indicate that this seller is dishonest. It simply indicates that the item might have had some problems. The person who posted this feedback also does not say whether or not they contacted the seller or tried to resolve the situation before posting feedback. You may notice that I'm really skipping over the positives and just looking for the negatives or neutrals. This is how most people surf through feedback. They ignore the positives and they look for the neutrals and negatives. Another neutral comment, item seems to be fine but rip off on shipping. This really is not a fair comment from the buyer because shipping is posted in the auctions. The buyer knew what the shipping rate was before they placed their bid. If they did not want to pay this rate, they should not have bid on this item and they should have found another seller. I would not consider this feedback to be an accurate representation of the seller either. Thanks, neutral rating. This type of feedback doesn't really make any sense. If the buyer was happy with the purchase, why did they leave neutral feedback? This looks to me like an inexperienced buyer, so I couldn't consider this anything against the seller either. 6 pages deep into this user's feedback, and I finally found a negative comment. In the comment he says, described as new, but was used, poor condition. This might be a legitimate negative comment, but based on all the other positive comments, and also on the fact that this buyer does not say whether or not they attempted to resolve the situation with the seller, I tend to want to discount this negative too. So far I haven't found any reason to actually distrust this seller. I'm now 8 pages deep into this seller's feedback. I see 2 additional negatives. These are both from the same buyer. ordered 2 things, no combo on shipping, overcharged, no email responses. It bothers me that he does say no email responses. This indicates that he did try to contact the seller, but the seller did not respond by email. I do not like to buy from sellers who do not respond to email. Not combining shipping is not a valid reason for leaving negative feedback. Many sellers do not combine shipping. The buyer also should not complain about being overcharged because they knew what their bid amount was and they knew what the shipping amount was from the auction. The only part of this buyer's feedback that I would consider valid is the no email responses. After looking through this seller's feedback, I see a large number of positives. I see very few neutrals, and among those neutrals, I really don't think they're valid. The few negatives I found also did not have a lot of credibility. I would not have any reservation about buying from this seller, but I would make sure that I used PayPal to pay. That way, if there was a problem, I could file for a refund through PayPal.